All right. So you work at Google, right?
That's right. My name is Kevin Marks. I work as a developer advocate for Google. All
right. So how long time have you been working at Google?
I've been there about a year.
A year. And how's that been?
It's a great place to work. Yeah? They have benefits that are second to none, of course. But the real thing that's interesting is to be able to work on stuff that improves the web, makes that better for everyone. Because Google is very good at supporting open standards and other things outside the core business that extends usage of the web to different groups and different people.
So people at Google are really good? I mean, they want the good for the world, or is that just an idea? Is it true? I mean,
I found it to be true.
Yeah.
What I've seen is that people will ask questions about how does this make things better? How does the basic mission is to find all the information in the world and make it universally accessible and findable. In concert with that, there's lots of complementary things that happen. So as far as Google's concerned, the more people that use the web, the better. So therefore, it's worth our while sponsoring standards around HTML, standards around new browsers, and even things like alternative energy, because we need energy to run computers and data centers, and if we can make that better and cheaper for everyone, that's also valuable. So there's this strong complementarity idea of Google.
Even cheaper computers than the OLPC.
That's right, yeah. There's several Googlers worked on that, including Guido van Rossum, who wrote the Python language, has done a great deal of work supporting to that.
So do you think that Google is working fast enough? Because sometimes maybe I would like them to work faster. Is that not possible? I mean...
in general, Google's more concerned with shipping something good and high quality than shipping something now. Which is they're engineers. They want to have pride in their work. There's also the sense that whenever Google ships something, it gets a great deal of attention. So we have to be sure that it'll scale up well and actually be finished and do the job. So there's quite a long testing cycle. But for me, it's quite encouraging to work at a company where the goal is to ship something complete rather than to ship something in a hurry.
All right, so where you're working is the OpenSocial, right?
Yes.
So what's your role in that?
I'm a developer advocate. My role is to come outside and talk to developers and to the general public like yourself, and bring their thoughts back into Google engineering and make sure there's a two-way flow of information there.
Because OpenSocial is... social networking, but it's so huge. So many people are talking about the value of Facebook. They say it's worth hundreds of billions or whatever they say. Some people say, So because everybody's using, you were talking about young people, they use that, and so there's big vision about that, I guess.
Well, people have been building social software for at least 10 years. You can trace it back to LiveJournal, which is still out there and running, and various other sites like that. In fact, what you find is there are lots of different social networking sites, and they tend to focus, because they collect people who know each other, they tend to concentrate in different places. So what you find is there will be different social networking sites in different countries or different languages, or even different economic groups or different friendship groups. So what you find is that the social networking sites are often not actually competing, because they have different sort of groups of people in them. So the value we have with OpenSocial is by giving it an abstract standard layer for applications to communicate with the social network sites, which means you can write one application that will run on many different sites, and therefore reach much broader groups of people than writing for one specific site.
So the goal with OpenSocial is to make social networking better?
It's to make social networking better, and to some extent to make it invisible. To mean that an application can assume that social networking is available and just ask the question of the environment. Who's the user? What's his birthday? What are the user's friends, and how are they connected? And by using that information, make a more interesting, more social application without having to do all the work themselves of collecting the friendship information and joining it up.
So is it going to connect with Open Headset Alliance also, with the Android, or of course, I guess? Well, that's trying to solve a different problem. It's another example of a project where Google's helping to create infrastructure and donate it to the world. So there, the goal is to have an open API for cell phones, so you can write code that will run on any cell phone. Part of that is there's a web browser in the cell phone, which is a rich, full-featured web browser with Java and CSS. So it would be able to run the OpenSocial software stack, which is based on HTML and CSS and JavaScript. So it will be able to connect to either information in the cell phone or over the web to the social site and run your application in there. So
the basic point is by building on open standards, you get to sort of compose the problem into different pieces, but they all still connect together because they're open standards, they interoperate in that way. The value of open standards is you don't have to anticipate every use. You just have to define the problem such that the pieces can be connected together. And what I found, I've done a lot of open standards work over the years before I joined Google, and what you find is that when you've got the standard right, you will find two people who are interoperating who didn't know they interoperated because they're working to the standard. And when you achieve that, then you've solved the problem.
So before you were working with Technorati, right?
That's correct.
And Google has a blog search. Is that going to interface with OpenSocial somehow?
I don't know in detail. That's a different product group.
It's different kind of technology.
So there's the social graph API, which is different from OpenSocial. OpenSocial is about the social networks and the different groups. The social graph API is about the relationships that are expressed in public on the web, and weblogs are a big part of that. People invest a lot of themselves in a weblog, and when they refer to each other, they will often use the weblog as a shorthand for the person. So you'll put the link to the weblog linked to the person's name, and that gives quite a tight association between the person and the blog. So the social graph API looks for those connections between blogs and makes it easy for people to express explicitly that this blog is me and this other Twitter site is me and this photo site is me, and join them up, and also to express friendship connections through weblogs and through other sites. So there's that is another aspect of creating a standard that lets information move between sites and doesn't require the two sites to actually cooperate for the information to be propagated.
So you connect an ID on OpenSocial with a Google account? Can you check the people's identity somehow?
No, that's not the point. Necessary connection at all.
Yeah?
No.
Not necessary, but they can be.
They could be. I mean, there's some Google services have OpenSocial support. Awkward is the first one. And there'll be others in future. But you can have an Awkward account, which is a Google service that's connected to your Google ID that's connected to other Google services. But that isn't necessary for the OpenSocial part to work, because all that needs to know is an abstract ID that belongs to the site, and then photograph and name and other information that belongs to the user.
But what I meant was you can check people's identities to make sure that they are really the people they say they are. Are you doing anything about that?
Well, you can't really.
You can't.
All you can do, I mean, that's actually not really a solvable problem. There are lots of ways to pretend to be somebody else. But what you can do is look at the connections between sites and their friends, so that the human being looking at the result can use their judgment to decide who's who and who to trust there.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.